Today, I want to talk about one of my favorite philosophers, Soren Kierkegaard. Soren Kierkegaard is considered to be the father of modern existentialism. He wrote his book in mid-19th century. Since he was a religious philosopher, he argued for faith and God. But since he was also an existentialist, by faith and God and by religion, he doesn't mean the religion of society. By religion, he meant something only an individual can do. Something deeply personal, something existential, something absolutely subjective, something absolutely internal. For him, every human being is trying to relate with absolute. You can call this absolute spirit, you can call this absolute God, you can name this absolute life, or the ultimate reality. Whatever name you want to give, what he's saying is the deeper our relation, our engagement with the absolute, the less we suffer. The deeper we are engaged with life, less we are suffering and closer we are to ourselves. The more superfluous our engagement with life, the more we suffer and further we are from our real self. To introduce this concept more deeply, he says human beings have three stages of life. Each three stages he relate with absolute in a different way. So the first stage, according to him, of human life is the stage of aesthetics. In aesthetic life, human beings constantly relate to the absolute unknowingly through the pleasure principle. He just wants pleasure out of life. No meaning, no responsibility, only pleasure. When he seeks pleasure, again and again, what he finally finds out, if he is smart enough, if he is contemplative enough, if he is self-aware enough, that all pleasures are at the end of the day empty. All pleasures ends in suffering. Before pleasure there is suffering, during pleasure there is momentary happiness, and after pleasure there is suffering. We repeatedly find out that all pleasures are at the end of the day boring. According to Soren Kierkegaard, this type of life, when human individual lives, is always very interested in humor and irony and sarcasm. Since his life has no deeper meaning, everything for him is humorous, sarcastic, ironic. You know what type of people I'm talking about. This type of people never engage with life on a deeper level, and that's why they find their life to be empty and shallow of meaning. This type of people avoid responsibility and they chase freedom. They have all the freedom in the world, but their freedom has no direction. Their freedom has no gravitas. They are becoming without any ground of being. They are still trying to relate to absolute, but futilely, without any final result, and their life ends in despair again and again. Kierkegaard says this is the first stage of human life, the life of aesthetics, the life of chasing hedonistic pleasures. And it's very natural. He is not a moral philosopher. He's not giving any moral argument about right and wrong. He is just analyzing the passion existentially. The second stage of human life, according to him, is the stage of ethical. When person chasing hedonistic pleasure again and again in the aesthetic life finally finds out that he not only have to find beauty outside, he has to make his own life beautiful. And when he tries to make his own life beautiful, he enters into the sphere of activity we call ethical. Ethical sphere of activity is relating human spirit not only with pleasure but with responsibility. The more responsibility a human being takes in an ethical sphere, the better he becomes. He trades off his freedom with responsibility. He becomes duty-bound. He becomes moral. He becomes serious. He engages with life with responsibility and seriousness. This responsibility and seriousness paradoxically gives him more deeper meaning in life. His engagement with life is deeper than the aesthetic person. He trade off his freedom, yes, but In return, he gets meaning. Not the ultimate meaning, but the meaning nonetheless. He becomes a good father, he becomes a good citizen, he becomes a good son, good daughter, good mother. And he finds that this type of deeper engagement with life, the engagement of responsibility and duty, is not bad. But here he finds that he can relate with the whole society. The political sphere, the sphere of morality, the sphere of society opens to him. While on the other hand, the aesthetic person is not interested in all these things. He is interested in all these things at the level of humor and irony and sarcasm, but but the person engaged in aesthetic sphere is never seriously engaged in any of this activity of society. While the person who is engaged in the ethical sphere is serious. He is not sarcastic, he is not ironic. He has burden on his shoulder and he finds meaning in that burden. He carries that burden and he deeply engages with life. He doesn't want to just seek beauty outside, he wants to make his own life beautiful. This type of person living an ethical life, according to Kierkegaard, is engaging with absolute spirit in a deeper way than the person who is living an aesthetic life. But this is not the final thing, according to Soren Kierkegaard, because even in ethical sphere, a person is not getting rid of despair totally. There is still despair looming inside. And since this person is more serious about life, this person is more aware and responsible, he notices the despair more than the aesthetic person. And this despair is nothing but the distance between his real self and his self made by society and family. He finds out that he wants to ground himself, that the person is living ethical life, finds out that he wants to ground himself into something absolute. But he doesn't seek absolute. He tries to find absolute in society, in relation. Though he is responsible, he is not absolutely authentic. And this lack of authenticity, this lack of distance from his real self, gives him guilt and make him suffer. So the final stage of a person's life is the stage of religion, the religious sphere of human activity. This sphere is little difficult to understand and is little nuanced. So we'll talk about this third sphere of human activity, religious sphere, in the next video.